Welcome back. Just a little bit of a disconnect here. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development says homelessness is down in Florida, including here on the Suncoast. But that might come as a surprise to anyone walking down Main Street in Sarasota or near the Salvation Army, where the homeless line the sidewalks every single day in the heat or in the cold, just waiting to go back in for a meal and a bed. Sarasota's strategy is ever changing and evolving, or putting it another way, there has been a lot of fits and starts and stops and starts again. You can say a lot of things, but residents and visitors can reach their own conclusions just by walking or driving around the downtown. And joining us for more is Michael Barfield of the American Civil Liberties Union, Ron Soto, chairman of the Sarasota Downtown Merchants Association, and local business owner Martin Hyde. And gentlemen, thank you all for being here tonight.
Thanks for having us.
Michael, I'm going to start with you, because if the point in time survey, and you're involved with the process with that, if it's not accurate, then what good is it?
Well, it's an effort to get out into the community and develop connections with people that are in need. Its limitations are that it's only a one night, but I don't think anyone uses that survey as the gospel, as a homeless count. There are a number of other indicators, like the fire department data, the Salvation Army's own data of how many meals they serve is a very reliable indicator of how many homeless are in our community.
But could it be used by people, whether in Washington or in Tallahassee or any place else, to say, hey, we are making progress in the fight against homelessness?
Well, it could, but I don't think it is a reliable indicator. You can't just take one night's worth of data and extrapolate that to find a solution. There are other sources of data that are available for every night, i.e. the Salvation Army.
Ron, you know, people who work around downtown, especially at the restaurants where I go practically every day, you know, they see it firsthand, and I would imagine it's affecting businesses firsthand, because you walk down Main Street anywhere from noontime in the afternoon, and there are a lot of people there in a community which does its best to cater to tourists and to snowbirds.
Yeah, well, the biggest problem we have with our downtown area is what they call the chronic or vagrants that we have downtown, which are the homeless people that the outreach team comes to, tries to give them help, and they don't want help due to the fact that they want to, basically they're hooked on drugs, alcoholism, or whatever the case may be. And if you go to one of these places like the Salvation Army to get help, they have rules, and you can't stay drunk and stoned if you go to one of those places.
Right, and if you drive around the Salvation Army, it's a very unfortunate scene, and in a community that is trying to show its best, you know, especially since we rely on the tourism industry.
Well, yeah, and the biggest problem we have with that is, believe it or not, the tourists and the generosity that we have with our people downtown, that they give them money. And we try to explain to them, instead of giving money to people on the street, give it to Salvation Army, the Resurrection House, or these different organizations that help them, rather than giving them money so they can buy more alcohol and drugs.
Right, and Martin, that raises one of the questions here. I know that you in the past have been out front in terms of how you talk about the homeless in Sarasota and what to do about them, but there are people and there are communities of people who believe, hey, this is a problem involving our fellow human beings, and we need to find an answer, not just move them out.
Absolutely. Bus tickets aren't the answer. I've thought a lot about that subject, and you know, criminalizing homelessness isn't the answer. Neither, though, is decriminalizing criminal behavior. There is a balance to be struck. I think that there's a common goal. I think that being homeless is a terribly scary thing. They're much more likely to be victims of crime. A large part of it is to do with mental health and substance abuse, and there are a lot of things that, you know, simple solutions to complex problems don't absolutely always exist, but I do think that there's a disconnect. The Sarasota County is shipping people from Englewood into the city of Sarasota, and that's why we have a disproportionate amount of homeless.
All right, we are just getting warmed up, and we'll have much more on homelessness on the Suncoast right after we check on the First Alert weather. Stay with us. Welcome back. The federal government says homelessness is on the decline across Florida, including the Suncoast, which might come as a surprise if you were to, let's say, walk out the front door of ABC 7 and walk across the street. Joining us for more is Michael Barfield of the ACLU, Ron Soto, chairman of the Sarasota Downtown Merchants Association, and local business owner Martin Hyde. You know, Ron, there are a number of new programs that are taking hold in Sarasota, including the sheriff's new team on homelessness, which includes 2 deputies, 2 mental health professionals, 1 sergeant, and a lot of equipment. And, you know, county commissioners are saying, you know, we're never going to solve this problem, but we're going to manage it better than what we have or what we done in almost a kinder way. But in your opinion, and you are a stakeholder in downtown Sarasota, is this enough? Is this the right approach?
Well, actually, I think it has gotten better. 2 years ago, if you were to walk across the street and see what the Salvation Army was, it's night and day to what it is today. So it has gotten better in the last 2 years. The problem that we have downtown is the chronic, the ones that are just out there and they're at the same spots day in, day out, panhandling out, and that's what puts everybody in frustrations.
You know, as I said earlier, I'm downtown every day. I do, if anything, I think I see more homelessness on Main Street and around the Salvation Army than I have since this broadcast has been on the air.
More than there was 2 years ago.
Yes.
The camping out there across the street was incredible 2 years ago.
Well, you know, Michael, what do you see as the problem here? Because we have taken different approaches over the last few years, including getting them off the street physically to trying to find better techniques and help for them.
Well, Sarasota is attractive because of its climate. There's a reason that we are all here, and there's a reason, I think, that's the primary reason why homeless people are here.
But let me stop you there, because it's just as nice in St. Pete, it's just as nice in Tampa.
There are plenty of homeless people in St. Pete.
Can I answer that one?
Sure.
All right. The difference is downtown Sarasota, we have so many different facilities down here. We have over 38 different organizations downtown helping, feeding, clothing, so we become a destination. All right, because there's so much here to provide for homelessness. It's a great place to live. It's a great place to be homeless also.
You know, I think we also need to change the equation. We over-label everything as homeless, and a significant percentage of this population are mentally ill. Years ago, we locked them up in civil commitment proceedings in Florida, and that was ruled unconstitutional, and they were released into the community. And we're still dealing with that. We haven't grappled with the underfunding of mental health care in Florida in particular and everywhere in the country. That is a core component of this.
Martin, let me ask you about this, because it is true. We are ranked dead last in the entire country in terms of mental health spending and doing anything about that, and that's on our state representatives and senators. On the other hand, I'm sure there are a lot of people watching this tonight who are just saying, get them off the street.
Well, they might be, but that's just kicking it under the carpet or the can down the road. I watched a video earlier about Skid Row in LA. You know, 20,000 people homeless living there, and it was a video that was done over the holidays and exposing how these people have to live. San Francisco's had to spend $300 million this year on its homeless problem. It's growing every year. Absolutely, mental health is a big part of that, and we're massively underfunded. To the other point, the county, people in Englewood, people in Northport, Sheriff Knight talking about putting people in the Salvation Army. Again, the urban center of Sarasota County is the city of Sarasota. We only have 54,000 people. We only keep 20% of the property taxes we charge out, and we're being left to hold the baby. The fact is we need absolutely to get more help, both from the county, from our neighboring counties, from Lakewood Ranch, because they all are part of the reason why these people are here.
You know, we have the same conversation time after time. Ron, I don't understand why downtown merchants and people in the business community don't put intense pressure on our legislative delegation to do something about the funding for mental health programs in Florida.
Well, I agree with you. We should. We should do even more pressure on them. Well, Martin was saying, though, just a second ago, that with the Sheriff's Department, bring them, so if they're down in Englewood, if they're in Venice or whatever, they bring them to downtown Sarasota, and pretty soon the rest of the county doesn't have a problem, only downtown Sarasota does.
Michael, let me get you the response to that.
Well, I don't think that's true. I think that downtown Sarasota is attractive. There is a reason why merchants are opening new shops here every day and new condos are going up. It is a very lovely place to be. I don't think there is no evidence of people being bussed into this community. In fact, there's evidence that they're being bussed out of this community. So.
But there was a famous case in the last year or so where a drug and rehab center down, I believe in Naples, were driving people up to Sarasota and letting them out, and the police department had a guy on video describing exactly what happened.
Well, there was one person, not more than one. There was one person that there was a dumping, if you will, and that was investigated. And so there are incidents that occur where people come here or they occur here, but they're not coming in busloads. We have a significant portion of our homeless population that have serious mental health needs. This is why Judge Quartermain's program is showing some early signs of success, because we're treating it and evaluating it when it comes into the criminal justice system, and using the resources that are available to deal with that. I think that that is the best way to deal with it, because communities have been underfunding mental health for some time. This is what was dumped on local communities by the legislature to fund mental health.
You know, Ron, what impact has Sarasota's changing strategies in terms of dealing with it had in terms of local business on the street? Because we've been talking about shelters in and out of the city. We've been talking about law enforcement, now friendlier law enforcement approaches. And meanwhile, businesses downtown, I would imagine, can't help but be affected by it.
Well, it does affect, especially if somebody's in front of your store panhandling. It does affect you because people don't want to deal with it, so they'd rather go someplace else. And we want to keep them downtown. We don't want to send them out to the malls and stuff. So, yeah, it does affect us. As far as what the mental health end of it, I always ask this one question: which came first? Was it the paranoia and schizophrenia, so we self-medicate with drugs and alcohol, or was it the fact that we've been doing drugs and alcohol for so long we have the paranoia and schizophrenia?
Well,
which came
I think
first?
There's a clear link between mental health and people are self-medicating because they're miserable, not because they choose that. No one wants to be homeless. They don't choose to be a vagrant sleeping in a corner of an alcove on Main Street. That is not a choice that they consciously make.
I guess what I'm trying to get to the bottom of is whether the region's ever-changing strategies in dealing with this has basically created the situation where we have more homelessness on the streets of the city and surrounding areas than other local communities.
I look at it in a more practical way, perhaps, than the sociological way. There are categories and subcategories within it. We do have a small criminal element in there that are just feckless. We have a lot with mental health and substance abuse problems. We need to take a look at who these individuals are. We're aware, the city has said this many times, that they've offered services to many of these people on multiple occasions, and many have declined because they don't want to be bound by the constraints of being in a facility. And I get that. But at that point, they should have still to be bound by the same rules of society that we all are.
Michael, you've been on the front lines of that. Let me give you the last word.
The Salvation Army, one of the things that we need to correct when individuals are approached by hot team members out in the community to try to get them to the shelter is to let them know that the rules have changed. There's actually a bed, not a mat on the floor at the Salvation Army. There's still a myth out there among the homeless population that going to the Sally is a mat on the floor and getting booted out at 4 in the morning. That's why they opt to stay on the street as opposed to a hotbed. So we need to educate our homeless population that real beds are available for them and they get taken care of 24/7, not on a 4 in the morning get booted out.
All right, we have to take a quick break and we'll be back for final thoughts in just a moment. And our guests join us right now for final thoughts. And Ron, I'm going to start with you in terms of where are downtown merchants at? Because a while back you were very active in trying to really, put down the gauntlet and saying that, look, our livelihoods are on the line here with the homeless affecting business. That kind of went away. So what are you doing now?
We still have, some people have some of the posters up and stuff where it said, keep the change, your kindness could kill. And basically he's trying to educate the public that when you give money on the streets, you're not getting that person a hotel room, you're not buying him a meal. All you're doing, you give him $2 or $3. All that buys is one of those little airline bottles of vodka. So, but we've kind of held off a little bit on it because actually the outreach team with the city and the police department has actually done a pretty good job.
Martin, we're seeing that the city and the county are now working together in terms of coming up with a strategy. I would imagine you would say this is long overdue, but are there approaches that are not being taken that should be taken at this point?
Yeah, you know, they mentioned community-assisted supported living with Scott Eller, and I think that's an excellent idea. It's a different thing. It's less institutionalized. It's a way to bring people back into a better, a more pastoral type of environment, and I'd like to see more of that. They're talking about one on Fruitville Road. I'd like to see one in the south part of the county. I'd like to return people to the opportunity to live a normal life. Yeah, and mostly I wanted to just say that everybody's a part of this. The county has to be a part of it too.
Michael, what are we missing?
Well, we should never return to criminalizing this. That hopefully we're past that point. Second, we need more resources from legislature, our state legislature, and local officials. And third, I think that we just take one at a time, solving one person's problems one at a time, and eventually we'll get there.
But you know, and we only have a couple of seconds left. We're back to where we started tonight. According to this, you know, the feds, there are fewer homeless in Florida and the Sun Coast, but we know what we see with our own eyes.
One is too many, Alan.
Okay.
And if you notice, a lot of the people that we knew downtown, Ian, who used to hang out in front of Madison's there, he's got housing. There has been a lot of good work done in Sarasota.
Okay, we have to leave it there. FYI, you can watch past discussions on demand. They're available on Apple TV, Amazon Fire, and Roku. And for the latest on local breaking news, don't forget to download the updated version of our app. If your current app doesn't work, it's expired, just go to the App Store and re-download it by searching for WWSB or My Suncoast. We want to thank our guests for being here tonight. Michael Barfield of the ACLU, Ron Soto, Chairman of the Sarasota Downtown Merchants Association, and local business owner Martin Hyde.